Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. I'm Ava DeBobis, the National Network Manager with Healthier Generation.
And I'm Daniel Hatcher, the Director of Community Partnerships. Excited to be with you all today.
So Daniel and I work with programs after school and summer across the country in supporting them in the healthy eating and physical activity standards in cooperation with the National After School Association. We're so excited to be here today and once again support parks and recreation agencies in being leaders in health and wellness. So before we get started, we're going to do a couple polls just to sort of see where our audience is at right now. So how familiar are you with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation? Maybe you recognize Daniel and I's faces from some videos or some webinars that we've been on. Maybe you're brand new and we're new friends now. Let's see how everybody's doing. Looks like we have people all across the board. Some that are familiar with us, some that follow you on Twitter, and some who have heard our name before and they know that we're partners of NRPA, but maybe are willing to learn a little bit more about how we work together. All right, let's go to the next poll. How familiar are you with Commit to Health? Maybe you're just tuning into this webcast or you've been on all day so you feel like a pro. Whichever it is, please answer the poll below. So we know lots of folks know that Commit to Health has to do with healthier programs, so that is great. Some people know about Commit to Health because of a grant that they may have won, and others looks like they're pros and they're partners in this work along with us. Okay, this is the last poll, so get ready, the third one. Who here is familiar with the National After School Association's healthy eating and physical activity standards? So you might know maybe it has to do with some summer meals, that you've heard of them, but you don't have them memorized. And other people, maybe you can recite them in your sleep, and you know all about the importance of role modeling healthy habits every day. So let's see. Oh, looks like we have a lot of people who are sort of all across the board again. That's so exciting. Daniel and I will talk about healthy habits and the physical activity standards all day long. So we're really excited to, over the next 55 minutes, get a little bit more in-depth and provide you guys with some examples of how to bring those standards to life.
Absolutely.
All right, so you guys have already done a poll with us, so you understand that we really want to make sure this session is interactive. But we also want to make sure that you ask questions throughout and that you feel comfortable getting up, taking care of your needs, maybe drinking some water, and stretching. So Daniel, before we get started, we know that active kids learn better. So what do we say we lead everybody in a really quick stretch?
Let's do it. I love it.
All right, so we're going to do this stretch seated. We're going to have everybody maybe just reach up to the sky. Don't hit anybody in the room with you. Now we're going to reach the right arm up and lean over to the left. Oh, that feels good. All right, now we're going to reach both hands up again, maybe that left hand far up and over to the right.
And don't be afraid to take that Commit to Health selfie and hashtag that, hashtag Commit to Health.
I love it. All right, maybe let's do some arms, shoulders, circles in front of us. Oh, that feels good. Loosen up those shoulders after sitting at the computer. All right, so this next one you're not going to be able to see, but since we're seated, I want you to stick your feet straight out in front of you, maybe wish-wash them back and forth. Oh, stretch those heels out. Point those toes. I do this on the airplane sometimes. All right, now we're going to take 3 really deep breaths. Ready? All right, in, out, in, out, in. Last one, all the way out.
I feel way better now, Ava.
I feel way better too. Ready to learn.
So don't be shy. Feel free to take a quick break like that throughout the next 45 minutes with us as well.
Absolutely. And don't forget to tweet at us as well. You can tweet at NRPA, at HealthierGen, and hashtag Commit to Health. We have Daniel standing by watching Twitter. So we're happy to answer your questions or see those pics of you taking some stretch breaks throughout this session on Twitter as well. So let's go back to the beginning, sort of who is the Alliance for a Healthier Generation and what is Commit to Health? So you may know by now that the National Recreation and Parks Association, along with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, partnered with the Partnership for a Healthier America in order to create the Commit to Health initiative. So in about 2009, all those different partners, along with the National After School Association, the National Institute of Out of School Time, you know, folks like Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the YMCA of the USA. You know, who else, Daniel, was a part of that first host coalition?
The National Institute on Out of School Time. Lots of great healthy eating and physical activity champions. And there's 10.2 million kids in after school, so it's pretty exciting that all of these different partners are working together to really help create places where kids can eat healthy and stay active. So
absolutely.
So Park and Rec folks, you are a really important part of that movement, and we're excited to be a part of this webinar today. And we want to create more momentum, and everyone plays a role.
Absolutely. So the momentum started in 2009. Then 2010, all those partners got together and created the Healthy Eating and Physical Activity Standards. And then we flash forward one more year to 2011, and those same standards were adopted by the National After School Association.
And that was big, because if you're not familiar with the National After School Association, they're the largest membership organization for out-of-school, after-school professionals. So to have their endorsement of these standards is really exciting. And you probably have seen professional development coming out of the National After School Association really promoting these standards, as well as all the different partners that have been involved as well. So we're really grateful for NAA support. And if you were part of the National After School Association convention, there were, I think, 10 plus workshops this year that promoted the healthy eating and physical activity standards, including one from Park and Recreation Healthier Gen on growing healthy habits and nutrition enrichment as well. So this is a movement, and we're excited that you're a part of it.
Absolutely. So as you can see, all types of organizations have adopted different forms of these standards. Maybe they've prioritized different subsets, but the National Recreation and Parks Association have adopted a specific set of the HEPA standards in order to support Parks and Recreation be leaders in health and wellness in their community. So where does the Alliance for a Healthier Generation fit in with all of that? Well, the Alliance supports the Healthy Out of School Time initiative by providing out of school time, so before school, after school, and summer camp professionals across the country with that evidence-based professional development and the processes, the tools, and all different resources needed to increase children's access to healthier foods and physical activity. So think of us as like the technical assistance pros.
We're the guys behind the curtain. Not today, we're in front of the curtain, but so we never want you to feel like you need to search for a tool or a resource related to nutrition or physical activity. Or healthy out of school time. We want to work with our partners like the National Recreation and Park Association to get those resources to you. So if you're feeling a little bit of information overload today, that is totally okay, because we're here for you, constantly curating resources in bite-sized amounts so that it's easier for you to help advance healthy out of school time.
Absolutely. So we are just going to jump right in, because now we've talked all about them. We've told you the importance of the Healthy Eating and Physical Activity Standards, or HEPA as we call them shorthand. So now we want to show you what those standards even are and walk through them and tell you a little bit about what they look like day to day at your program. So take it away, Daniel.
All right. So I'll also share that I've been at the Alliance for a Healthier Generation for about 10 years. So I was at the table when these standards were originally created, and I think the intention behind them is really important to understand. So it's about helping as many kids as possible eat healthy and stay active, but they're really meant to be aspirational. We know that you're not going to achieve all of these standards overnight, and that is totally okay, as long as you're working towards and trying new things, and something might work one year or during the summer that's not going to work in the fall, and that's okay. It's just about quality and continuous improvement. And again, we want to be your support system as you do that. And working with all of our partners across the country, we want to make it as easy as possible for you to move across that continuous improvement process.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the physical activity portion of the HEPA standards.
All right. So I'll read through them really quick. Some of my favorites are ensuring physical activity takes place outdoors whenever possible. That's been a really important component of the partnership with the National Recreation and Park Association for us, because we know you all are promoting physical activity. You have spaces where kids and families can go and play. And if you're going to promote physical activity, why not promote it outside? There are so many great connections to STEM and citizen science, and getting outdoors and bird watching, for example, is intergenerational. So we want these standards to be something that really help you create more community, help you create and foster a sense of belonging as well. So it's about adding more physical activity but it's about adding the physical activity opportunities that help you do what you do best, which is build community.
Absolutely. And we know that it's not just about the amount of physical activity that you do, the specific amount of minutes, right? We want that to be at least 20% of your programming time. And we hope that you can get outdoors when it makes sense weather-wise. But also, we want you to make sure you and your staff are role modeling that physical activity. So talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of like implementing a policy, Daniel.
Sure. So, and maybe you're thinking about summer camp, right? Because we're just in the springtime. So as you bring on staff for the summer and volunteers, and you're working with families who serve as critical volunteers, having a wellness and policy in place that outlines the importance of physical activity and the right amount of physical activity and the type of physical activity is really important to help them be a part of this movement as well. Because if I hired you during the summer, Ava, and I said, great, we're doing physical activity standards, what would you say?
Well, I was a camp counselor, so I would just say, what?
So how
What's
much
the standard?
physical activity?
Yeah,
what kind of physical activity? How do I make that happen? How do I engage families in physical activity? What do I do about inclusion? So a wellness policy is really important as you work toward these physical activity standards to set the tone that everyone should be involved in advancing and increasing physical activity. But there really are some important components like the amount, the type, the location that really make physical activity quality physical activity. And we've worked really hard with groups like the National After School Association to say quality after school is healthy after school, and healthy after school is quality after school. So that's the importance of these standards. So as you read through them and see these numbers, it's about doing the right types and amounts of physical activity so that kids and families can get the greatest benefits.
Absolutely. And if I'm a camp counselor or a staff person, you know, I want to see that those recommended amount of physical activity and those specifics that my agency is looking for, that those are located in my manuals, the program materials, maybe it's included in my staff orientation or onboarding, and talked about on a regular basis to remind me as a staff person, you know, we want to make sure you guys are out there playing games with kids, make sure that the games and activities include all the kids, maybe there's not as many lines or standing around, and that I know what to do, how to adapt those activities if we have children with different abilities as a part of our camp.
Yeah. And we know that social emotional learning is a really important concept that out-of-school providers across the country are prioritizing right now, and we see physical activity as a great opportunity to support social emotional learning concepts. So it's important to add physical activity, but to use it as an opportunity to build connections, help promote teams, help kids learn more about each other. So we have a lot of resources at healthiergeneration.org that we're curating with our partners. You've seen some of the videos in between the sessions today that hopefully will help you have that type of conversation with staff about how to leverage physical activity to create more positive social relationships.
Absolutely, and you may see that there's a few standards as well that you know, discourage the use of technology, maybe screens, television, movies, things like that during program time, because we know that that solo screen time is not helping youth develop those types of positive social relationships with other adults or with other kids. So although you might have STEM or arts and literacy as a part of your summer camp programming, which may require or be facilitated on the computer, you want to make sure that you're not using those screens as a crutch, and we're still making time for physical activity outside of the academic purposes that might be associated with screen time.
Do you want to hear an example?
Oh, I would love it.
So one of my new favorite resources is PBS Kids Plum Landing. It's a free downloadable app that was created for families to go outside and have outdoor adventures using their smartphone. So again, free download. But Ava, if I was to pull this up and we went outside, we could do a scavenger hunt and identify as many types of clouds as we could see. We could take selfies with stormwater drains, and if we wanted to do like a mapping our community activity to say, you know what, there's an important connection here between physical activity, outdoors in nature, and water conservation and the environment. So really look to leverage digital as a way to, again, create more connections while promoting physical activity, but in a way that brings communities, kids, and families together.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait to go check that out. You said pbs.org?
PBS Kids, but if you just search for Plum Landing, it'll pop right up.
Okay, awesome. I'll be doing that after and
right.
enjoy my beautiful day.
We'll go on a cloud scavenge hunt.
I love it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the healthy eating standards now, because I know that for a lot of parks and recreation agencies, recreation and getting outside and playing, that's sort of a part of what everything that they do. But healthy eating, that might be a subject that your staff are not as comfortable talking about.
Yeah. So you want another example? So I love beach parties. So I'm going to give a beach party example that's going to talk a little bit about the different healthy eating standards here. And you can see them on your screen. So it's things like serving a fruit and vegetable at every snack. It's serving water. It's serving low-fat milk. It's serving only non-fat, reduced-fat yogurt and cheese. So how do you meet these standards in a really fun way? Okay, so let's talk beach party. Okay, so let's say that we're planning a backyard beach party, even if you live in Washington, D.C. like we do.
Yes.
So it could be a do-it-yourself trail mix bar. So a really simple way to bring these standards to life is rather than bringing in your traditional snacks and foods for a beach party, which may not be the healthiest option, you could do something fun with a DIY twist that introduces kids to lean proteins and fruits. You might also set up an infused water bar.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm helping kids try new types of fruits and vegetables in an infused water. But again, set up your tiki bar of fun infused water. Again, a really simple way to meet the healthy eating standards, but it's just packaged up in fun enrichment and disguised as a celebration and party, which we know is one of the biggest challenges for out-of-school providers is having healthy celebrations and healthy family events. So why not use those fun events, or why not use those events, make them fun, but layer in healthy eating concepts?
I love that, because what it's all about for kids is consistency, especially in their summer camp or after school program. We don't just want to make sure that these nutrition guidelines are followed in the snacks and the meals that we serve, but that they're consistent in those special events, those family events, and those holiday celebrations that might be a tradition at your program. So we want to make sure that's consistent across the board, that we're sending a really positive message about here are the healthy fruits, vegetables, like Daniel said, maybe those nuts and different lean proteins or healthy beverages that we want kids to be consuming. And here's a safe, healthy place that kids know that they can always access those items. Or families can come and they can trust that all the events are going to be healthy events for their kids.
And there's a really important equity component to this as well. So back to the backyard beach party idea. So taste tests are one of the best ways to engage kids in nutrition education, and they're simple and fun, and kids get to try something new, they're going to be more likely to add it to their diet. Well, what's the most expensive fruit in a grocery store? Tropical fruit.
Tropical. I was going to say kiwi, pineapple.
So you might not be able
fruit.
to serve lots of different tropical fruits throughout the summer, but if you set up a taste test and you're taste testing small amounts of tropical fruits with kids, they get a chance to try something new. It's fun, it looks different, and then you could just bridge that to other fruits and vegetables that might be in season in your community. But again, it's just a fun, unusual twist on promoting the healthy eating standards.
Absolutely, and for so many programs, we know that maybe you're not the main vendor of the food that's coming into your program site. Maybe you work with your school district or a local food bank, and so you may be saying to yourself, well, Ava, these standards look great. I would love to do that, but I don't control the menu. We want to make sure that you guys have the resources that you need in order to advocate for the changes that you would like to see. Maybe talking to your school district about being really excited about these healthy eating standards and how you're working towards them. And maybe you would love to see some additional fruits or vegetables served, or that you're going to set up a taste test to try and see if you can get kids familiar with these foods before you add it to the full rotation.
And Allison talked a lot about partnership, and I think partnership around food and just having a bigger dialogue about access is really important. So as you begin to digest these standards and find ones that you feel like that are approachable for you and your organization, really bring in other partners who can help expand that conversation as well. You could have a great partnership with your farmer's market or a local farmer and set up a field trip So just think creatively about partnerships, but you don't have to start there. Like, you can start simple, and it could be an infused water station at every single event you have this summer, and that could be your initial step into bringing Commit to Health to life, and then move that into something larger.
Absolutely. And I want to address one of the questions that we got in the chat box. So keep sending those questions in, guys. We'll make sure to address them. Somebody asked, are there suggestions for making adaptations to children who have different physical abilities? Maybe they're in wheelchairs or they have other types of physical limitations. And I want to expand this question because I think this goes for children who maybe have different eating habits or food needs. So we hear a lot about allergies or food sensitivities, and that some programs are really worried about introducing new foods because of that, or they're really worried about introducing new games because they're not sure how to adapt. So to what Daniel was saying, I think partnerships are the way that you and your staff can really feel comfortable making those adaptations or making those modifications to your menu, knowing that something is allergen free or that there are different options available. Maybe you can switch out that peanut butter for a sunflower butter, things like that. You can really work with those local partners, like a school district, school nutrition staff person who's used to making those types of adaptations, or a therapeutic recreation staff person, or maybe somebody from a NCPAD affiliate organization who can help you make those adaptations to your playground or to your games that will allow it to be adaptable for more kids.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned NCPAD, Ava. So if you're not familiar with NCPAD, it's the National Center for Health, Physical Activity, and Disability. And they have a campaign called Commit to Inclusion, and both Healthier Generation and NRPA both are a part of that. So if you just look up NCPAD or check out our Healthy After School blog, you'll see us reference NCPAD in their guidance around inclusion quite a bit. In fact, we actually have a blog article on inclusive physical activity that we share a lot that actually talks through different types of disability and mobility issues. So those are the types of resources that we're trying to curate. Again, Healthier Generation will always be the folks advancing healthy eating and physical activity. We're not the inclusion specialists, but we're friends with the inclusion specialists. So I'm excited to continue to share those types of resources with all of you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, you said schools, Ava. Those of you listening, you might know that Healthier Generation works with 35,000 plus schools across the country. So schools are very near and dear to our heart. They're critical to community health. And we want to see more community organizations partnering with schools. So so Allison Nondorf, thank you for this question, because one of the most important things that you can do is connect with your local school wellness council and make sure that you are telling them about the Commit to Health work and finding ways to work together, because your questions on access and mobility are questions that they probably have already dealt with and have resources for. And so if you can work together and strengthen linkages between your recreation agency, your out-of-school environment, and the school setting, it just makes it easier, again, to your point, Ava, to make health and wellness consistent across all places and spaces in our communities.
Absolutely. All right, so that reminds me of, and let's move on to youth and family engagement. So while Daniel and I are talking a little bit about these different best practices, I would love for you all to share your best practice of how you engage families or different community members in your state or in your county. So go ahead and put that in the chat box of the different ways that you're supporting youth and family engagement. All right, Daniel, so what are those best practices?
All right, so around sending healthy messages home, it's really about looking at all of the opportunities that you have within your existing communication mechanisms to share the word about Commit to Health and healthy out-of-school time. So Allison mentioned before a family engagement bulletin board. So think about that first moment when a family or community member walks into your recreation site or your out-of-school time space. What is the message that they get? Are there signs pointing folks to the water fountains? Is there a kudos wall recognizing staff who are helping promote healthy messaging in a welcoming environment? Are there signs next to a stairwell? So a little bit of mixing physical environment with family engagement, but we know if families are coming to your site, every single space on your wall, on the floor, sidewalks are important places that you can really promote healthy messaging. So whether that's giving students who come to your agency or site a box of sidewalk chalk and saying, you know what, take the Commit to Health Foods of the Month curriculum, enrichment activities that you just did, and now let's come up with a group art project. That's sending healthy messages home. If families are coming to your site and individuals are walking down the sidewalk and they pass by that recreation site and they see the banner for summer meals, but they also see other healthy messages, it's a really important part of this work. And I think that's so important because we know Park and Recreation plays an absolute critical part of healthy communities. And if individuals are walking by recreation and parks and they see that this space is a location where health and wellness has been prioritized. If you work for any other type of youth serving organization, it's really positive reinforcement and some healthy role modeling, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I think is really interesting, and to your point, Daniel, is that it's about the physical space. So we want to make sure that where our staff are communicating to families, maybe that's when they're talking to them during check-in and check-out, when they're picking up their kids, or that you're sending things home so that families can read it or put it up on their own refrigerators. But then, like Daniel said, that they're seeing it everywhere that they go on your site. Now, many of you might be renting space from a school or a different community center, maybe not run by your facility staff. So you might be saying to yourself, well, we don't own the space. I don't know if we can put stuff up. We're kind of there temporarily. But we really want you to think about how you can get creative. So maybe you can't hang anything up on the walls, but maybe you can have a tripod stand that you put at your check-in and check-out. That's sort of a temporary bulletin board. Or you want to make sure your check-in and check-out table has lots of different materials for families to take home. Or maybe you're putting them right into the backpacks that kids are going home with at the end of the day. And I think, communicating with staff, not just about what the curriculum you're doing in your program is, but also, what is the menu for the day? What's the physical activity for today? All those other things that you're doing in your program that you really want the buy-in of families and different community members to get excited about and to know that you're doing in your program and that it's a really high quality time that kids are spending there.
Well, and just to go back to, the intention of these standards, incremental progress. You don't have to have a shared use agreement or a policy overnight. It could start with putting the Commit to Health and Foods of the Month pamphlets and one-pagers out on a table at a family event.
Absolutely.
And that is perfectly okay. But it's also important to think about what would happen if I talked to my school that's letting me use the space for a family event and said, what if we had a shared use agreement in place? Here's what our wellness policy says. What does your school wellness policy look like? How can these things fit together? So if that vision is in mind and you're working toward those systems and policy change, keep driving in that direction, but no, it's completely okay to start with a trifold, a tripod with a poster that promotes healthy messages that your kids wrote during summer meal time.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so we just named a bunch of different resources, whether it's a wellness policy or a shared use agreement, maybe it's different curriculum that you're interested in. So over the next few minutes, we're going to walk you through the Healthy Out of School Time website and a few of those different places you can find our resources. So feel free, I give you permission, maybe pull up another window on your laptop or pull out your smartphone and follow along with us as we visit host.healthiergeneration.org.
And Ava, before we do that, I see a question that just came in. So thank you, Christina Sims, for sharing this question. And I think it gets to the concept of resources. So we're going to share a lot of our resources and places that you can go to get information. But the most important resource that you have is your knowledge of your community. So Christina says, a large portion of our community is Spanish speaking. We provide everything in English and Spanish. So whether it's language or another important component of culture, you are your community's best resource. And so adapting the tools and the messages that we can share with you is perfectly okay. So if you read a blog article that I've written and you're like, I like that, but I could write something that really meets my community where it is. Please do that. Use our tools and resources, but adapt them with your knowledge of your community because you are your community's greatest asset. And again, back to working with schools and other community organizations. share the Commit to Health message because you're an important leader in this work, and they may be trying to start something, but they don't have a resource. Maybe they haven't translated something that's really important to them. So finding ways that you can leverage yourself as a community resource is really important.
Absolutely. And when it comes to family engagement, we also want to think about our family and community members as an asset. For so many after-school programs, they have amazing relationships with families and with different caretakers because they're a trusted place. So we want to make sure that we're also engaging families to help provide translation services. Maybe you have one family that's able to help you translate materials into a language that maybe that your staff are not as familiar with, or that they can help be the communicators and help lead the charge on promoting special events to different communities. So definitely make sure that we're communicating to family members, but we're allowing them to take ownership over some of that communication as well.
Great point.
Yeah. Okay, so we're ready to walk through the website?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first page that we're going to walk you through is host.healthiergeneration.org/NRPA. So this is a great spot to visit. It's a specially curated page just for parks and recreation agencies that allows you to create your login account or log in directly from here if you're already a member. Once you're logged in, you're able to see a whole curated page of NRPA specific resources like the policy guide, some specific videos, and some additional tutorials on how to get started on the website. So definitely check that out. So if you go to the left-hand side of your screen, you'll also see tools and resources. Let's go to that tab first. So within the tools and resources page, you can find our resource database, a little bit of information about the continuous improvement process that Daniel talked about. So remember those small incremental changes at your site or program. You can also find some direct links to our Alliance for Healthier Generation product calculator. So maybe you're interested to know, is the granola bar that I'm serving compliant with the HEPA standards, or maybe are these juice boxes compliant? That's a great calculator tool to just go ahead and type in the nutrition information and it'll tell you yes or no. It'll also help you find different specific products that are HEPA compliant if you're interested in making a switch or improving your snacks or meal programs. So let's see here.
Ava, can I give a quick shout out?
Sure.
So I just want to give a shout out to Jerry Logan. You're from Starkville, Mississippi, and part of the chat today. Thank you for sending a message using #CommitToHealth. So one of the resources on our website are our healthy out-of-school time roadmaps. So if you've been watching and you're like, wow, this is a lot of information, I'm just not sure where to start. Our vision for these roadmaps was to break down the healthy eating and physical activity standards into 1 to 2 page resources that talk through success stories, action steps, resources that we've seen that have been effective. Again, just trying to unpackage and break down these standards to make it easier to use and understand.
Absolutely. And we have a specific roadmap just for parks and recreation agencies to sort of give you that first step in the right direction. All right, so you will see down here one of my favorite things that I think we've already mentioned, our Healthy Out of School Time blog. So Daniel and I curate articles and publish them on a regular basis. Here's one that we just published yesterday, 7 ways to prepare camp staff for a healthy summer. And when you check out the Healthy Out of School Time blog, revisit it on a regular basis. Daniel always tries to tweet out the links so that you guys know when we've posted new things. You'll see that we're always providing direct links, really easy information that you can easily print out and maybe promote at your next staff meeting, or different ideas from other parks and recreation agencies just like you across the country who are working on this work.
Right, and just a shout out to another question or comment that came in. Melissa Kirkwood, thank you for this question. To find out what your school district's wellness policy is the best place to start with the district administration. I would say absolutely connect with your local school district. But to this point, so helping schools and communities partner together is certainly a challenge. And so you can actually, there are multiple articles up on our blog that you can go through that speak to creating connections and partnerships with your schools as well.
Absolutely. And I would definitely say check out the district administrators and maybe look up your district wellness policy. Oftentimes your districts will publish those on their district website, so those are really easy to find. But also talk directly with your principals, because school level wellness policies are also something that a lot of school districts are promoting as well. So we want to make sure that as after school program providers, you all know if you're included in that wellness policy, or if you're not already, that you can make recommendations to make sure that your programs that occur after the bell or before the bell are also included in this big overarching wellness movement.
Mm-hmm. And Ava, I'll call it out just because I see it on the screen. Mm-hmm. So back on March 6th, we posted an article called "The Power of After School to Transform the School Day." So you as out-of-school professionals are really important, not only to connect with schools, to partner, to do great work to advance healthy eating and physical activity, but we know that out-of-school time is special. It's a creative space where there are some really amazing connections between educators and children and families. So with the Commit to Health work that you're now a part of, and as you learn more about this space, definitely find ways that you can take that and share it back with your school. So you're a huge asset to your school as well. So it's not just about asking them to partner, but it's sharing all of the great work and resources that you have in out of school and recreation back with them.
Absolutely. Okay, so I already mentioned the Smart Snack Calculator, but I want to show you guys the Alliance's Food Planner. So this is foodplanner.healthiergeneration.org. You all can also find tons of links to it all over the host website, but this is the direct address. And here you can find sample menus for after-school meals, after-school snacks, and summer meals as well. You can find different recipes that you or your vendor might like. Maybe you can even use them at a family engagement event, and different product lists. Maybe you're looking for a specific granola bar or a specific bag of baked whole grain chips that are HEPA compliant. This is a great way to find it. So we have specific items just for after school, like a CACFP product calculator as well, because we know some of you are looking for really specific items that help meet those federal nutrition guidelines, and that come in certain serving sizes and things like that. So that's a great product to use at your program, but also to share with your school district or your food bank or whoever your sponsoring agency might be for those child nutrition programs. So I love the Food Planner. It's really great. But what we heard from a lot of staff is that, you know, it's not just about knowing what food items are HEPA compliant. That's really, really helpful. But it's also about accessing them, because it's really hard to find sometimes those HEPA compliant food items in my local grocery store or big box store, or maybe my different food vendors who I'm trying to get deliveries from. So we heard that there's a lot of different procurement issues that a lot of sites are faced with. So Healthier Generation worked with a really exciting partner to try and create a solution that is available to all parks and recreation sites across the country. And that is our Healthier Generation store with Amazon Business. So we're the first public health partner that has ever worked with Amazon Business before, and we wanted to create a one-stop shop place where you could sort through, find HEPA compliant, CACFP compliant items, and shop around and see what have the best prices, be able to access Amazon Business rewards and opportunities like free 2-day shipping, free account setup, also being able to have the system talk to your different expense reporting systems, maybe create different administrative approvals so that your camp counselors can submit orders that they would like to make, and your supervisors can approve those orders, and really make sure it's a lot easier as a camp counselor or as an after-school program director to find those HEPA compliant snacks and get them delivered to your site in the quantities and with the special pricing that we know so many of you are interested in. So if you go to healthiergeneration.org/Amazon, you can find out lots of information about the opportunity, about the Healthier Generation store, and link directly to how to set up your free account. Yeah. Okay, so last but not least, I wanted to go back to the Commit to Health page, because the Alliance for a Healthier Generation and the National Recreation and Parks Association, we have tons of links to each other's website back and forth. So don't worry if you don't remember some of these websites. We want to reassure you that you can find your way to all these wonderful resources by just going to the Parks and Recreation page as well. So you can find all of the different ways to register on the Healthy Out of School Time website, how to promote and celebrate your program if you're working towards these standards, a little bit more information and maybe a one-page printout that you can provide for your staff about what the standards are, those Foods of the Month nutrition curriculums and home gardening curriculum. And I'm going to go straight to this resource page because Daniel and I have been talking all about policy, wellness policy, wellness policy. And so the Alliance worked with Parks and Rec to create a policy implementation guide that has template language that you can just plug your recreation name into, and also some tips from other parks and recreation agencies who have been working on wellness policies and have been working to overcome the challenges that come with getting a policy written, getting a policy approved, and making sure the policy makes sense to staff and families. So that is a great resource that you can use right away to start thinking about what a wellness policy at your program could look like. Okay, so we are going to go back to our slides here. Oh, and that's what the Healthier Generation store looks like. So we know that there are obstacles in implementing the HEPA standards, and that we know it's not going to happen overnight. As Daniel and I have been talking about, it's about those small incremental changes, taking those small wins about switching maybe the foods in your snack program, or switching out the items in your vending machines, adding in new games and activities to your program time. But what are the most traditional obstacles that we hear Parks and Recreation agencies that they might have? And if you have an obstacle, feel free to put that in the chat box.
Ooh, Ava, I would say staff turnover and training summer volunteers is always a challenge. So back to those bite-sized bits of information that help advance these standards and just keeping that steady stream of information going.
Absolutely, because we know that staff turnover is a real thing, and it can be really hard to want to invest time and energy and training into staff people who maybe are just seasonal or, like Daniel said, volunteers, but it's so important that they get on board with what the culture of health and wellness is at your program. I also hear all the time, Daniel, the challenges around outside food and beverages, that it's a really hard problem to address with staff to prevent them from bringing in outside food and beverages that are, maybe unhealthy and sending the wrong message to kids who are watching them consume. So what are some ways that staff can overcome that challenge?
Sending lists home is a really important thing to do, just to set the expectation and provide alternatives and ideas around healthy snacks and beverages. And I actually will give a call out to the very last Healthy Out of School Time blog that was put together, which actually lists some of the resources that Healthier Generation has for sending that type of messaging home.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the other obstacles, and the last one that we'll talk about today, having to do with physical activity at programs, is limited space. So a lot of programs, maybe they don't have adequate indoor recreation space or outdoor recreation space. So they feel challenged because they feel like maybe it's not a safe environment for kids to run around, get sweaty, and do all the activities they would like to do.
Sure. So having another list of back pocket physical activities is important. So whether that's the famous after-school Energizers handbook, or it's an experiential nature activity, a gardening activity that you can do at desks or at one desk and have students watch, are great alternatives. And we have a lot of those resources on our website and blog as well.
Absolutely. It's all about getting creative and not feeling like you want to compare yourself to a different program, maybe that has a big field or a big gymnasium, but really making the HEPA standards come alive at your program based on what the limitations are of your physical space. So don't feel bad comparing yourself to someone else. Achievement of the HEPA standards can look so many different ways across programs.
Great.
All right, so we are just to the end of our time here together, and I want to give a quick reminder that after our session there's going to be a quick break, and so stay tuned in and make sure that you come back for our next session after this time. So if there are any other questions, I don't think there are, Daniel. No. So we so look forward to answering your comments and seeing those pictures on Twitter throughout today. So make sure you enjoy your break, get up, get moving, rehydrate with some water, and we look forward to joining you back in a few minutes. Thanks so much, guys.